Hi, my name's Kathy Skipper and I'm a menopause midwife. Welcome to my channel, The Alchemy of Menopause. Before I go into this video, I just want to say sorry that it's been 2 weeks since my last video. Usually I'm good at making sure that I put out a video per week, but I've been working very hard on creating a free masterclass on the Dark Goddess and how this archetype can be helpful for women going through menopause. If you missed that free masterclass and you'd like a recording of it, please send me an email to kathy@menopausealchemy.com and I'll send you the recording. Okay, so this week is the last in our series of videos on the 7 main chakras. And so first of all, well done if you've got this far. This video shouldn't be too long. I'm going to try and stay focused by keeping an eye on my notes. This chakra is the crown chakra, positioned just above the head. It's more of an opening than a chakra. The other chakras are sort of whirling discs in terms of their energy, and this is an opening into the collective. It's called the Sahasrara chakra, which means thousandfold. And if you look at the symbol of this chakra online, you'll see that the lotus has many, 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 many petals. And it doesn't literally mean thousandfold, it actually means infinity, an infinite number. The color associated with the chakra is violet, and it's really about opening from our personal journey through the chakras, through our life, through our self, to a connection with the collective. So that's on a spiritual level and on a collective level. In depth psychology, that would be really connecting with awareness to the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious is the place where all the archetypes of what it is to be human exist. So all the blueprints that we have inherited through generations and generations of humans being on Earth that enable us to behave instinctively as humans. So one that you could very well understand as women is that the archetype of the mother is triggered when somebody has a baby. Even if that woman never had, it was her first baby, didn't have brothers and sisters, hadn't had any contact with babies in her life, there are instinctual ways of being that she will just fall into or know instinctively through the archetype being triggered because she's just had a baby. And the dark goddess, who I mentioned earlier, is the archetype that gets triggered when women go through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond, because she's the goddess who's connected to the cycles of life, where something has to die for something else to be reborn. So our fertility is dying so that our sovereignty can be reborn. So she's really the mother of the perimenopausal woman. So in the collective unconscious are the archetypes and our connection to the whole. So one of the main way we connect to the collective unconscious is through our ancestors. You know, if everything in the collective unconscious was available to us all the time, we'd probably get psychosis. It would be too much for us. I think I've said this before in other videos, but it's as if you had a small laptop like mine and the whole of the cloud just came into your laptop. Your laptop wouldn't last more than a microsecond before blowing up. Same with our mind. So one way that we connect to the collective unconscious, other than the archetypes, is through our ancestors. And so I'll talk about that in a little bit. So it is through our changing hormones that we're not just being physically affected and going from fertile to non-fertile. So it's our life experiences and understanding them as we go through this big initiation of menopause, which lasts 2 to 10 years on average. And we have a lot of emotions coming up. We're looking at our belief patterns. We're looking at what we've inherited from the women whose shoulders we're standing on that is still needing to be healed. It's a deep, deep journey into the self. And ultimately, it is leading us to this awareness of something transpersonal, beyond the self. That's the aim. This is where the crown chakra comes in. We go beyond ourself into the transpersonal, which is beyond the personal. And it is the changing hormones as we go through perimenopause that aren't just here for us to go physically from fertile woman to sovereign woman, but for us to go on this journey, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, from fertile woman to sovereign woman. So there's a big change and that change will affect us emotionally, will affect our belief system, will affect how we position ourselves in the world, and it's meant to. And that's again where the dark goddess comes in. One way that some of you might find helpful in understanding this is if you've had a hot flash and you realize that this energy, this feminine energy, um, that comes through us in a hot flash is coming from below upwards. It's as if it's triggering these other the lower chakras until it then comes through the crown chakra. So there's this movement upwards, which is very different from the same feminine energy that brings our menstrual blood downwards through the contractions, or through contractions when we're giving birth that brings the baby out and downwards. At menopause, there's a change in direction of this energy heading towards the crown chakra and into this awareness of our connection to the collective. Yes, I mentioned the connection to our ancestors, and this I've experienced in my own life, and I hold space for women in my programs. And what comes up in perimenopause is that as we start to do our own healing, if we're aware and able to see the connection to the collective unconscious, we start to recognize that we start to realize that the challenges or the traumas or woundedness or the difficulties or the negative self-beliefs that we're working on in order to integrate and heal might not have started with us in our own lives, probably didn't, but they are inherited from the unintegrated traumas, woundedness, negative beliefs that women in our lineage went through. So our mothers, grandmothers, great grandmothers. And it's this awareness that we are connected to all these women through the collective unconscious, through the crown chakra, that enables us to really heal, to really get to the root of our difficulties and to change the narrative. So also to do with the crown chakra is spirituality. And this goes beyond religion. I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about spirituality. And for women going through menopause, what I have found to be the most poignant and effective way to work on this is to bring in the goddess energy, and for perimenopause, menopause, the dark goddess. So the goddess is the feminine part of the divine. And so if we can really work with these archetypes and find the dark goddess that resonates for us and really feel that archetype coming in and guiding us like a mother, this can be very, very helpful for our journey. And so, again, connected to the crown chakra and the goddess is this idea that we have to trust and surrender to something higher or more powerful than ourself. And I don't mean higher, I keep doing this because it's the crown chakra, but actually it's deep because the dark goddess is in the underworld. But it's this energy that's more powerful than ourself. It's like a higher self. And it means that we need to trust this part of ourself somehow, and surrender to her and not be attached to our beliefs and to what we think, or to our negative beliefs. I'll never get there. I can't do this. I'm overwhelmed. It's not going to work for me. We have to somehow trust that there is something greater than ourselves who will lead us, who will show us the way. What I often do is I just say to myself, please show me the way, knowing that I'm saying that to something higher than myself. Please guide me. Please show me the way. And then we have to realize that when we're working with this greater energy than ourself, when we're opening into this um, spiritual energy, she will show us and guide us, but not through a left brain language, not through a linear way of thinking and being, which we're very used to, the way we've been educated in this world. She'll show us by turning up in our dreams, or by us having just a hunch, a knowing, or some kind of synchronicity that seems magical that we didn't know would happen. Or just a book turns up, the right book at the right time, or the right person at the right time, or you hear the right thing being said that just triggers what you were looking for. You have to be very aware. Um, your awareness, actually, when the crown chakra is open, is so much more vast than anything you were aware of before. And I think this is key, because women say, I'm just so overwhelmed. I need to take these medications. I need to do this because I want to stay normal. But what they don't realize, and they can't realize until we get to the other end, is that there is something so much greater than the normal we were in before. That's maturity, that's growth, that's going through the chakras and opening the crown chakra, which is our birthright at perimenopause and into sovereignty. But we can't know that what it's like until we get there. We have to trust and surrender to it, to her, to the goddess, to the higher self. That's very, very important. Um, and as I said, there's this archetypal layer of humanity that we begin to understand, the archetypes and how they work, the mythology. We start to see it on this deeper level, how we're all connected. And we start to realize that our logical mind is so limiting, and we have to develop and honor these other ways of knowing, that give us a deeper knowing. The company that I work with my husband is called aromanosis. So through this awareness and the crown chakra, we get this sense of experiential knowing. We know something through the sense of how we experience it. So it becomes our wisdom, much greater and much more important than book knowledge, or having been taught something, or just believing something because that's what you've been told since you're a little girl. No, this knowledge that we get when we open our crown chakra and we connect to this greater awareness is called gnosis, and we know it because we've experienced it in the whole of our being. We've experienced it emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We know it viscerally. The other aspect of the crown chakra is, yes, so we've been working through each of the lower chakras, and then we open into this collective. But there's also, don't forget, the collective that can come down into our lower, sort of more material being and help us in this lifetime. So that would be, when people say they get a download, that's what that would be. It feels like water that isn't wet. Suddenly you get this sort of feeling of some information coming from somewhere outside yourself, from this greater, higher collective aspect into your being to help you in your life. So this crown chakra can go both ways. That's important to remember. And we go from, how is this good for me in my life, to how can I be in service to the whole. This is key. This is key on a collective level, on a crown chakra level, to the role of the wiser older woman or the sovereign woman. It is no longer about my life individually. There is also a greater awareness of, how is my individual life going to resonate positively for the whole? How is my healing journey, my growth, my awareness, my beliefs, my behaviors, my way of connecting going to be useful to the whole, my voice? And that is crucial, I believe, in today's world. That is where we as older women have a very important role. And I've said this hundreds of times, and I use this analogy because I think it's so useful, is that the species of whales that also live for decades after menopause are leaders. They help the rest of the pod to live healthily, to live longer, to live without as much friction and fighting between the males, etc. That is what is missing in our society today, because we are missing the role of the sovereign woman in en masse, in the collective. So the key to the crown chakra, I believe, in this journey of healing through menopause is ultimately that we find our connection to ourselves within the whole, to our voices, to our leadership, and we affect the whole through this natural cycle of what it is to be a mature older woman. So as I said before, we go from what is good to me in my life to how can I serve the whole. And if we don't go towards reclaiming ourselves, towards this growth that is the potential of perimenopause, if we don't reclaim these lost parts of ourselves with the help of the dark goddess, if we don't reawaken these parts of ourselves that have been asleep, that are naturally being stimulated to be awoken during perimenopause, then we can't get to this point within ourselves. It is the hard, long journey that is the initiation of perimenopause, but it does lead us to this sovereignty. So if we don't do this work, but is the longest initiation we'll ever have in our life. 2 to 10 years is a long time to go through perimenopause, but it's there for a reason. If we don't do this work that we are being called to do through this natural cycle of perimenopause, if we don't reclaim the lost parts of ourselves, if we don't continue growing emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, if we don't awaken the parts of ourselves that have been asleep, then opening this chakra is going to be very difficult, and we will not be able to evolve into the sovereign women that we're meant to be. And so what's going to happen is the psyche, which is always looking for homeostasis, is going to keep repeating patterns in a woman's life until, because it's trying to make you wake up. Here is this pattern again. Here is this emotional pattern again. Here is this negative belief again. And we need to face these and work on them in order to break the pattern. Otherwise, it's just going to keep on going. And finally, I think with this opening of the crown chakra is the invitation to allow in all these new possibilities of connecting, of seeing ourselves, of learning, recognizing new ways of being in the world, new language, the language of the right brain, symbols, the imaginal realm, dreams, hunches, intuition, psychic ability. This is the way of the wise elder woman. And yes, she was killed, in her thousands during the witch hunts in Europe. Yes, she has been banished from our patriarchal world, but now is the time for her to come back, reclaim her voice, and be a force on this planet for good. And that is really the end of this cycle of 7 dives into the chakras in terms of how our chakras can be, or an awareness of our chakras can be helpful to us through menopause. It's been hard. I must say it's been hard to do, because sitting here and actually trying to not ramble too much and get to the point has been hard for me, and I want to honor that. But I hope that these videos are useful, and let's keep the conversation going. Share in the comments, please, and that will also give me ideas of other videos to do that are going to be helpful for you. And if you like these videos, please like and subscribe, because that helps. And I'll be back next week with a new topic on how menopause and perimenopause are the most beautiful and inspiring journey that a woman can go through. So thank you for listening to this. I hope it has been helpful, this series of videos about the chakras, and I'll be back next week with a new subject. Please like and subscribe. It's really helpful to this channel. Lots of love.